All right, we got a Sony RX100 M4. This one is Rob's, and he sent it to me and it was completely dead. Wasn't getting any sign of life. So I took it all apart, cleaned the cables on it, and let's see, I cleaned this top control board cable, the one that comes from the control board up here to the main board, and it started flashing green light. Just flash, 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 wouldn't do anything. Push power button, wouldn't do anything. Just flash, flash, green. You plug the charger in and it still flash, flash, green, wasn't doing anything. So I looked online about the green flash, and they said take the battery out, take all the power off, let it sit for a month. So I thought, okay, well, I ain't got a month, but I went ahead and I charged the battery, put a charged battery in it, and just let it sit there for a little bit to see if that would change it. That didn't change it. So then I left the battery out, and I took the whole motherboard off. Just took the whole motherboard off and cleaned these other cables that go from the memory card to the motherboard, the CCD cable, and the cable that runs to that little eye viewer thing. So and then let it sit there for a couple days, no power on it, just, by itself. And just a while ago, I thought, well, let me check this thing, see what's going on. So I put it all back together, semi, only plugged in. I didn't plug in the viewer or the LCD, and I just plugged in the motherboard as far as the power and the control panel. And you need to have this little panel on here. If this panel is not on here when you're trying to fire it up with the LCD, the whole menu just goes crazy. So this has to be plugged in. And I didn't have this plugged in. I just wanted to see if it would fire up. I didn't have the LCD on. I just had the memory card plugged in, the control board, and the power one. So I put a battery in it, and the green light came on when I pushed the button, and it seemed like it was trying to power up. The lens didn't extend or anything. Then I plugged the power in, and it went to orange and started charging, indicating that it's charging the battery. So then I thought, wow, okay. So I went ahead and plugged this little board back on. I plugged the viewer on, and I plugged the LCD on, and fired it up. And let's see what it does. And there it pulls up the menu. And there it is. So now I got to test it, put it all back together. It seems like it's working. I tested the little eye viewer. It seems like it's working. And so there, I got to put it all back together now. And hopefully it'll be good. I think it is. And what I'm thinking it was, this battery he sent me, this battery had a good charge on it. And as I was testing the camera, I went back and tested this battery, because if you remember that one video that I did with that Sony where the little electronic board inside the battery, it was showing a good battery, showing a good charge, but as soon as you put it in the camera and turn the power on the camera, and then you take the battery back out, it's totally dead. Well, this battery was showing a good charge on it. And when I put it in the camera and was messing with it, I took the battery back out to test it again, and this battery is completely dead. So I'm thinking this battery might be the culprit into why this camera freaked out and shut down and didn't want to turn on. So I'm going to tell him not even to use this battery, to just throw it away, not even take the chance to put it in there and try to charge it, or even put it in another charger and put it back in this camera. Because normally when these batteries, let me show you, put on the meter here. When these batteries go completely dead, let me get this in the camera here. That means that the circuit in there, or the little chip, see, this thing was showing, when I first tested, it was showing about 4 volts. And now it's completely dead. And I was thinking, what the hell, did my meter crap out on me? So I got this little 9-volt battery, and you see the meter's working. So normally, if the battery, one of these little batteries have 4 volts on it, it's not going to just go completely dead like that. So something's wrong with this battery. I mean, it is completely dead. This is the positive, this is the negative. It is completely dead. So I'm thinking this battery did something to the camera. If you remember that video that I had with that other Sony camera, and the battery were telling that, you know, making the camera freak out and everything, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, because the batteries were showing a good charge and going a full charge on the little charger, and then once I figured out, when I put them in the camera and turned the camera on, then test the battery again, the battery's almost dead, and it was that little circuit board in the battery. So I don't know if these have a circuit board. They probably do, but this battery is no good. So I wouldn't chance using it. You see it fires up. Everything's working now. I put the battery in, I plug it in, it seems to be charging. The little green light turns amber or orange and shows to be charging. The lens extends, the eye viewer works, the LCD is working. All I got to do now is put it all back together and then do a test on it. So I just want to make a video showing if your camera, even your Sony RX100, is not powering on. And I did find a website saying just to take the battery out and let it sit for a month. And that blinking green, I don't know what that's really about, because see, I cleaned these cables. I mean, it wasn't showing any sign of life. It was totally dead. When it got here, I was testing with this battery here, and I touched the battery, it had 4 volts, so I started testing the camera, and the camera was completely dead. So then I got these other batteries, and I started going through these other batteries, and even with these batteries, the cameras, these, you know, got 3-something volts on them. None of them were doing anything. This one had the most volts on it. This one had 4 volts, so even with that one, it was showing completely nothing. It was dead until I cleaned the contacts on the cable up here that goes from the control panel to the motherboard. Then it started showing me some kind of life. This little green light started coming on and blinking. It would just sit there and blink, no other action. And then I thought, okay, well, let me charge the battery real good, leave it in the camera, and I let it sit there for a while. Same thing, just come on, blinking, wouldn't do anything. So I took that battery out, took the board completely off, cleaned all the other cables. And I was also looking for damage, because he said he dropped it. So I was looking for pinched cables, you know. I don't know if you saw that other video where when you drop a camera, the cables get pinched, you know. With that one RX100, that original RX100 that I did, that cable folds, and it's such a tight fold that after so long it just snaps, you know, and especially when you drop it, it just couldn't take it anymore, and it just gets brittle and cracks. So I was looking for breaks in the cable and everything, didn't find anything like that, and just cleaned them and put it all back together, and it started showing me signs of life, and it seemed like it was powering on, you know. It stayed, instead of blinking, it stayed a steady green. So then I thought, okay, this is different. And I plugged in the charger, and it went to amber or orange, indicating that it was charging the battery. Then I thought, okay, and then I put the rest of the cables on, took the battery out, put this little board on, put the LCD on, put the cables all back, you know, everything, so it's all connected, and then put the battery in there, and it fired right up. So seems like it's working. So I just want to make a short video here showing you your RX100. If it's got that blinking green power button, you might want to just let it sit there for a while, or it could just be that the cables are dirty and need to be cleaned. The contacts, the little gold contacts on the cables, and they get kind of frosted. I call them frosted because if you look at them from when they're new, they look real shiny and real gold looking. And you can always tell when you pulled one of those cables out and it has this dull frosted look. And if you just clean it, it looks shiny again and they make better contact. So it could have been that, or I don't know what could have been in the battery. But anyway, it's working now, and I got to do is throw it together and send it back to them. So I guess I'm going to wrap this one up here. All right, I'm out.